That's her.
Oh, okay.
For clarification, I was being asked what the name of the city auditor is for the minutes, because she came in and gave us a financial report, and that was on
24th.
the 24th of May.
Well, and how were the finances?
There's money.
Yeah. Money's good. I like money.
Jay, you're looking up, you're good?
And so I'm just looking
Yeah, I'm just
for
We're just
the,
saying that it looks right.
the young lady that was here from the newspaper.
Since she did not enter anything into the public meeting, I did not add Miranda to the minutes, since she
Okay.
didn't actively participate in the meeting. I wanted
Oh,
to.
okay.
Spoke to us after the meeting
Okay.
concluded.
Yeah, so
Okay.
generally the way that minutes work is that when we enter into the open forum period of the meeting is I include first name, last initial of whoever contributes to the open forum. If you don't speak during that time, as a way to respect privacy, I don't add your name to the minutes as members of the public.
Do you put down an aggregate number, or you just don't make any mention?
I could start adding a regular number if that's something that we'd all want in the record for how many people are there.
I could
That's a good
foresee
idea.
someday somebody wanting to know in total, yeah.
Sure, thanks, Arthur. I'll do that.
Okay.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so can we get a motion on approval?
Yeah, let's motion to approve April 26th. Minutes.
Give a second to approve the April 26th meeting.
Okay,
Motion to approve May 24th minutes.
Second the motion to approve the 24th minutes.
okay.
And motion to approve May 31st minutes.
Second the motion to approve the May 31st minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, O'Brien.
Do you want us to sign the 24th as well?
No, I'm supposed to sign it as the person who did them.
Okay.
So there they are, signed, and I will keep them with the rest of the minutes for public record.
Okay.
Cool,
Thank you.
all right. So now we can get on to the fun stuff, Jay.
Absolutely. So the station manager updates to sign the, narrow down the candidates for the station manager. We're waiting to hear back from the mayor's office on where we stand with that. So next meeting we should have more information. As far as,
May I ask a question on the station there? Just wondering, do you know if the salary you're offering is comparable to the average salary of access station managers in the area?
actually, that is a great question.
Yeah.
I haven't researched it to look to see how the salary compares to other ones.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is because this is when we were between the last contract under the old terms where we get fixed amount of monies, and then we got the new one from Comcast where they gave you 1% of the franchise fee. And I was trying to determine, so I was asking around at some of the access stations. This was the Melrose one I was talking to. And he said, well, you really need 3 positions: station manager, production, program manager, and production coordinator. And he says, all 3 don't necessarily need to be full-time. I'm like, no, but you want to be open 40 hours a week, so you need bodies. Let's say they are all full-time. They said, well, now I want to know people's individual, but the aggregate total, what will be the average for all 3 jobs? And the price he gave me was more than our entire budget at the time.
Wow.
And I don't know if that was just their base salary, or it included, the part of the FICA Medicare that the company has to put in, and the insurance you need to take out. But the point was, now we're getting more money than that now. That 1% is more, because when we heard we're going to 1%, and he said, don't worry, it's more than you're getting. But then 2 salaries have gone up, so you should kind of find that out, because if you can't offer comparable, ultimately what you end up with is somebody who's not really qualified, just starting out, or somebody who needs the work so they take it, but because they're good at what they do, it won't be all that long before they get the better job somewhere else and leave.
Well, I think that's a great point. I think
Yeah.
that if the person ever comes on board, if they end up leaving, again, that might be something for us to take into consideration and look at.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, bringing that point
Sure.
up. So that's really the station manager updates, unless either one of you have Anything else to add to that?
No, but I think this is a good time just to state our next meeting date. I mean, the station manager update will happen at our next meeting, which will be,
The last Thursday of July, technically. Yep.
And will it definitely be here, or will that be determined closer to the time?
Closer to the time.
Okay.
We may move it.
It's largely depending on whether or not we have someone in the station manager role. We'd like their first meeting with the board to be at the station.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
and by rotating the locations of the meetings, it allows other people to attend.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so eventually we'd like to be in other places in the community as
I
well.
would like to do one in West Nucky Community Center, and
The senior
maybe
center.
the library, maybe the senior center, so that way it goes around and it affords people more access and more visibility into it, so.
And see if you get it worked out wherever it is, like here, that it's not like the doors are locked till someone with key comes in.
But you saw, he
Sure,
was
You don't
here.
like that?
Huh?
He was here. He said the guy was
Yeah.
in the building. He said he was doing something else.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
pounding on doors and nobody's hearing anything.
Or we can at least find out what time the
Get them
building
a
is going.
doorbell to ring, so if somebody's here, they can contact.
I have a question as well. I had written in advance about speaking. Now, we had talked at the last meeting about having a certain time. Is it at the end of the meeting? Or have you people decided when public can speak?
Well, if you have questions pertaining to the subject we're on, that's fine. If
Okay.
you want to do a speaking thing that you talked about, then we ask you to do it at the end.
Okay,
If you have questions
fine.
about any of the points that we're on, as long as it's subject to the point we're on, that's fine.
Well, with the salaries, if I may speak.
Sure.
Ben Brown's salary was around $64,700, around there, 65. He had to do a lot of work for all three stations. What I'd like to know, and I'll be filing a public records request, is where the money's going. Because I believe the money goes for the government channel to 3 teacher salaries. And then the educational monies, I believe, all goes into the general fund. So the station is subsisting off of the public access monies, which I think is wrong. And I think the public deserves to have those public access monies for the public. As we see now, with it at the high school, which was against Mayor McGlynn's tribunal. They wanted it centrally located, which I know you people are talking about, which is good. You got one guy getting this huge salary, handling 3 things, and public access is left out in the cold. It's kind of like, all due respect, at Somerville Media, when Rob Zargas was going to interview me for the station manager job for the radio station. And then he called me up the day before and said, you have to take the youth media coordinator as well. And I said, it's apples and oranges. So in Somerville, what we found was the radio station takes a back seat to the youth media, which brings in revenue. In Medford, public access takes a back seat to the government and the educational channel, yet the government monies are going to salaries. I believe that $200,000 or so pays 3 teachers. So the Cable Advisory Board now has an opportunity to say to the mayor, hey, this has been going on for 30 years. Arthur certainly knows that the money's been divvied up the wrong way. There was a home rule petition on Beacon Hill to allow the city of Medford to take 60% of the money to throw into the general fund. I believe part of that 60%, maybe Arthur knows, is the educational monies. So the education was piggybacking off of public access, or more to the point, public access is piggybacking off of its own money going to the educational channel. What about that 60% that's going into the black hole that I have documents from City Hall explaining where the money's going, but I can't make heads or tails of it, and I'm not that stupid an individual. So it really is murky, and I think they were pretty upset that I even asked, identify every nickel and dime going into the general fund from access monies. I wanted a line item. I got a bunch of papers I couldn't make heads or tails of. So when you're talking about salary, if Arthur's saying that Melrose has 3 salaries that are more than Medford was making, Medford public access can be better when we get better control of the money. That was a home rule petition from maybe 25, 30 years ago. We're in 2018. The city has depended on the franchise fee but our taxes keep going up. So I don't get it. Why do your taxes go up if this money is being taken from the franchise fee? More than Somerville, more than Winchester, more than any other city in town I know of. Maybe Tewksbury is as bad off as Medford. I've heard rumors. Maybe.
Okay, thank you. So just, if the two of you don't have anything to add, we can move on to the staffing and shows. So with the staffing, obviously we're in the process of hiring a new station manager, which will be great. We currently are able to continue doing productions through the use of 2 people. One's an intern, and Jack McGoldrick, who's working right now on a part-time basis doing productions from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Monday and Tuesday, which is able to get us through this little hurdle right now. Our goal is that when the station manager first comes on, or my goal, I think the 3 of us, we have to talk. Our goal, okay? I don't want to speak for you, but I was going to say, once we have that, I think we'd like to see Jack continue at least for a short term, so the station manager can focus on just finishing up a few of the projects that were open for when Ben was here.
What file format does he take the shows in? Can he take DVDs?
He can burn them onto DVDs.
I mean, I have DVDs, my show. Can I bring them, and can he load the DVDs up to put them in from that?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had given Ben some that last week he was there. He didn't get a chance to program them in. I took them back only because each of the shows is specific for the week that it plays.
Yep.
So I need to bring some new stuff in.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, is he there the whole time, or only if he knows there's people?
3 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
Monday and Tuesdays he's there.
So I don't need to phone ahead. I just show up and.
Your best bet is you could just show up at your best bet, because he may be producing a show and may not be able to talk to you or even answer the bell when it rings. So the best bet is to reach out to him.
Was that the same number that was Ben's?
You can use that still. Absolutely.
Okay.
So what are the hours of the station manager? When do you?
That's yet to be determined.
Yeah.
Generally, it's preferred that the station manager overlaps for about an hour with the VOTEC teacher.
Like Christina.
But with her going on maternity leave,
Yeah, for you.
and
She'll
also
go
with the
for
station
you.
manager not having established a new, we don't have a new station manager yet to talk about their hours.
Right.
So that makes things a little bit more complicated. I believe that Ben was in 5 days a week from
Yeah, he
2
worked
to
long.
7 or 2 to
Hours.
8.
Yeah.
He worked too many hours.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? Now, would someone be? You think about doing a weekend for Saturdays? Because he was there just during the week, right?
It would depend on the station manager. This is something that was talked about, questions that were asked by candidates about hours. It's the kind of thing that is going to have to be established after the station manager sort of gets heads or tails made of what needs to be done, what the demand is from the membership and the community. I think that if it's something that people really want, then it could definitely be a discussion that we had at a meeting like this when we have a station manager in place.
Has the city placed any restrictions on you for hours? Because the original RFP that Mayor Glenn sent out, which I know went by the wayside, but that had preset times that were like not negotiable.
As far as
That would, when the public access members would be able to use the studio.
so there are restrictions. Public access at the main studio will be available.
Yeah.
I believe it starts at 3 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't use it when the vote is in session and they're using it, but as far as that, it's like, it wasn't a given that if you wanted Saturday or Sunday, you could do it, or if somebody wanted an 11 p.m. at night live show, you could do it. They didn't get into specifics, but they just said it would be determined by the city what the hours of operation would be.
Right now, it's more, the only restriction really is it has to begin after 3 p.m. Weekends, what time till, that hasn't been determined yet. With the new station manager coming on board, once we see it. I've also had discussions with the West Medford Community Center and the Senior Center. They both agreed to allow us to have them as satellite locations. I say that, allow without getting to the details, so once you get to details, everything can change, but right now they're open to that, and they like that idea. If that happens, that obviously opens up a lot more. We'll have cameras permanently there. We'll also have an editing station there, so you can do that.
Now, does summer with school out change things as far as not being over before 3 during the week?
That'll be an interesting thing to navigate once we have full-time staff.
Yeah.
So that would be,
But I do believe there are a number of summer programs that happen at the high school
Yeah.
during what would be considered regular school hours.
Yeah, I should think if somebody got really hooked on it during the year, they want to keep it up during the summer too.
Sure.
yeah, so that's, as far as hours, that's really to be determined, but that is a discussion that we want to have and expect to have, so. As far as the shows go, I want to say, I've been talking to all sorts of people about creating new shows. I want to say we've sent out, from the ones I've spoken to, 7 or 8 producer forms to people who are interested in doing their own shows. How many come back and start to actually do it, we'll see. Some of the people interested in shows are a cooking show. One of the things I've done is I've spoken to the VOTEC, and we're going to see if we can get permission to, and I have to have a couple more meetings, to be able to use the new cafe that's at the VOTEC for the cooking show. So that way we can use that. And also some of the other facilities that the VOTEC has. So if it's robotics, someone wants to do a show on robotics, there is a robotics program that we can take the show in that location with those tools, which really opens up a much broader range of great, items that we have available to us to use.
What about like the basketball games at the Vogue? Are they taping those events now, or is anybody not doing it yet?
At the what?
The Vogue vocational school.
Oh.
Actually, I don't know if it's in the vocational, but there's a
So
basketball
the Vogue and
court
high
up
school
there.
really are more just one school at this point.
Yeah, but I know they've got basketball games out
Yeah.
there, and of course the teams do play football other places. Is there anybody, whether it be the vocational school students or the educational channel students, are any of them
I know that's,
already, regularly taping these events?
I know some of the sports have been taped. The process for doing, I know Jack Dempsey has been one of the folks who's taped some of them. As far as, I can tell you they're not all taped, because I go to the crew events and they're not being taped.
Yeah.
So not all of them are, but that would be a nice goal. I have, in addition to the shows, I've also been talking to people volunteering. So right now I have about 6 or 7 people that have said they'd like to become a volunteer and work in the station. And by doing that, that may open up more things. And the volunteers don't want to be in front of the camera. They want to do editing, they want to do the camera work, they want to do sound. So again, that's going to be something once a new station manager brought on board, we can then talk to them about and start to get those volunteers in here as quickly as possible. Get those new shows going, provided they want to do it. And see where we go from there and grow the program and also start to market it. And we want to do several different, especially Gabby, Gabby was bringing up as well, that do these, event wants to do as well, do the community events to bring the community in, to show them what we're doing, to do that, but we need to get the station manager. Yeah.
As we're talking about outreach and bringing people in, Yvette talked about us all being a team. And I think the people that do show up repeatedly here to the Cable Advisory, we're interested.
Mm-hmm.
But I've felt no outreach from the community. So when you're sending stuff out, and as you probably know, I put in my resume to be station manager. And I have definite ideas that even Frank Polari said, like, wow, these are terrific. There are ways to bring the community in. Medford's not doing it. And if we're all a team, if there's some kind of like welcoming, because I'll tell you, fellow producers of mine are really outraged. They gave Ben the very best shot, and they came back and said, wow, you were right. I said, nice guy, but he wasn't ready for prime time. And that's the problem. You have to have someone that isn't going to do the bidding of City Hall. It's got to be a separate entity so that it becomes public access. Not, the priority is taping the school committee. No, the priority is it's public access money. As I explained to this Cable Advisory Committee, it's public access money that's funding everything. I want this committee to get our other monies, because if I'm elected station manager, if I'm appointed station manager, first thing I'm going to do is ask the mayor to step down as issuing authority, because I like Eugenie Burke as a city councilor. I loved her, okay? I don't think she's prepared for public access. She was great on the city council, but people change in different positions. And I think as mayor, she's a great city councilor, love her as a city councilor. So I've been doing this 39 years. I know the ins and outs of it, and we can improve Medford, but Medford has never welcomed. So the other producers said, boy, Joe, you were right. It's not working, and they've kind of stepped away. We're losing producers, the pivotal key veterans, not the members of Medford Community Cablevision, the key members of the community who felt ostracized by the last entity, myself included, so you add more to the mix. We feel ostracized. We don't feel like it's our station. And that's what the advisory committee has to do. Somerville has a great thing with the radio station. That's a great way of doing outreach because people don't have to do as much learning to edit Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere. With a radio station, you can sit down. It's a great outreach tool. People like to get on the air, get their feet wet, then they can graduate to television. But if you start them on radio and put a camera up or Facebook Live up, they're on TV and they're doing something simple. Now, if you don't have licenses, there's public domain stuff, but these are the outreach things that can bring people in. And radio is fun. And then radio with a Facebook Live up at Somerville, Boston Free Radio, we would get 1,000 views on Facebook Live, which means, and I said this to one of my guests, when I was the program director of 2 AM radio stations, the joke at a 50,000 watt station where I was program director was we could yell out the window and get higher ratings. And my guest laughed, but it was true. With Boston Free Radio, we were getting more outreach on Facebook Live and with the radio station than we got at a 50,000 watt AM. Think about that. The world opens up. That's what makes it fun, and that's how you will all succeed. The three of you will succeed at getting people in, making it fun, and not being a daunting thing of, oh my God, I got to learn this. And oh my God, my brain isn't wired for Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere. And some people aren't. It's very hard learning curve. How do we make it easy for them to come in? I mean, I have the formula. I know exactly how to bring people in. And Frank said, oh my God, that's great. That was from 20 years ago. I can do it today. I can get you 100 members. I can do that in my sleep. But that's my formula. If I'm elected station manager, we'll do that. But you see these viability of these ideas, and Yvette knows because she's at Somerville. She has seen the increase in DJs. And that turns into membership for the TV station. It's all good. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thanks. All right, so that's pretty much where we are with the shows right now. We are getting new people, bringing them in. We have our shows that have been ongoing. They are still going forward. And staffing will hopefully continue as well to grow. With the new station manager, high school intern, which is a permanent high school intern, which is nice as well. So do either one have anything to add to that? Would you like to bring up any other business? All right, so Joe, I know you wanted to speak. I don't know if you have additional thing you want to speak or if that was what you wanted to speak.
Oh no, sure, I would love to.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so cable access in Medford, it's at a disadvantage because as one executive director of a station said to me, it was never set up properly, they will never get it on track. He still says that today. I was in his office and he goes, Joe, they're just not going to do it. And I'm like, I'm fighting, man. So we need to be a team. We need all the people that you see interested, me, other people that are interested. You know how passionate I am about this media. It's got to be welcoming because people are leaving. When we bring people in and there's a team and people feel safe and they don't feel like at TV3 Medford where an autistic man was humiliated and a fellow that was playing with major rock stars, they took the kid's time away and gave it to another guy because they were so in awe of this guy that played with Tina Turner. And I'm like, wow, he's autistic, he's getting pushed around. They would do things on the air to him to humiliate him. That is not what access is about. And people in Medford remember. They remember being humiliated. They saw me getting punched repeatedly on TV3. They hated me that I criticized them, so my figure would get punched. Physical violence against a community member was not inviting. I know you don't want to go backwards, but if you don't look at the past, it's condemned to repeat in the future. Condemned. We have to make it welcoming. It's got to be fun. I don't feel very invited. Paul Garrity said, I'm going to put your show on the air. I just wrote him again this week. Paul, where are you? My DVDs have been sitting there from before Ben Brown got hired. And then when he got hired and he was playing everyone else's show, he ignored mine. So that's like ostracizing. And then they come up with, okay, here's the agreement, it's finally here, but Ben, you're playing all these shows from Westford and from Needham. You didn't play my show. Well, you got to sign the form now. But it's Medford, and you have Medford shows, and you got to sign the form. That's not welcoming. I got over 1,000 shows. I've been doing this for 39 years. So how do we become a team? How do we make it accessible? Because you want word of mouth. And word of mouth right now is like, oh my God, disaster up there. I'm not going back, one producer said. And I'm like, oh, come on, we all gotta, no, I'm not going back, Joe, I'm insulted. And this guy helped with lighting, and he really gave of his time, and he felt insulted. That's not the way to begin it. Now, that's not Joe Vig. That's other people in the community that care. The Medford Community Cablevision problem. There's 38 grand missing. The AG's office keeps telling me law enforcement's involved. They're looking at the board of directors. I think that in order to make a clean break, you can't have ex-members of TV3 in right now because it sends a message to the public. Oh my God, those are the guys that bashed people. They made fun of an autistic man. There was homophobia. There was racism. Use of the N-word in the studio. It was horrible. We can't have that in the future. Yet the TV3 element is the biggest element at Medford Community Media. So I would think, okay, give them a probation time. Keep them out for a year. Let the community come in, then filter them back in. You know, they've got plenty of other stations they can be on. Medford needs a team, a new fresh start. And the old has creeped back in. Paul Garrity was on the board of directors. You know, I was supposed to get the TV3 van. They lost the van, so they came to me to get them a new one, sponsorship. And then Mr. Garrity and Mr. Polari were acting in a very unprofessional manner. That's all I'll say. So why is he back on the Chapter 74 board? Why do we have TV3 people in the new station and the community feels not safe? Because it wasn't a safe place. I had to get 2 restraining orders on people. And Yvette advised me to get one of them.
Joe,
in a parking lot.
you need to restate that because that was not a true statement.
Oh, in the parking lot of Stop and Shop. You said to me...
But you have to know that you have to really think about the full story, and you're misstating.
I'm not misstating at all. I'm a journalist, and I'm not misstating at all.
I would say that you are.
Well, you can say that all you want. I'm disappointed in you then.
Thank you.
Because
That's okay, continue.
I want you to be honest.
Oh.
Because I am being honest. And I have the restraining order on the woman. And I have a restraining order on a former station manager who would take my name, Community Media Medford, and registered at Medford City Hall. That's what people know from the past. And the future, like I said, poor Ben Brown tried, but here he is doing school committee meetings. And here he is doing the city council meetings, and the microphone's going crazy. I'm the only person that spoke that night without feedback because I'm in a band. I stood 8 inches away from the microphone. But Ben didn't tell people, hey, don't eat the mic because it's feeding back. So we had, a guy that wasn't ready to be station manager. My fear is that we have a mayor and she needs certain things from public access, and so the person that gets hired is going to be very technical and is going to be running around like Ben. And I know we have an advisory board, but my speech here tonight is let's be a team. Reach out to me. Reach out to the other people that were in the community. Let's build a station because I have programming. I mean, if Jodie Foster talks to me and Robert Zemeckis and Bill Press from Sirius XM Radio, and to get to Jodie Foster, you can't be a crazy person. So if City Hall wants to paint me as crazy, yet I'm talking to famous people right and left all the time, I have to have some integrity to be in a room with the guy who did Back to the Future. And then Paramount Pictures comes out and says, Joe did the best interview with the guy. And I'm like, wow, thank you very much. I was prepared. I'm passionate. I get these names, yet in Medford, fill this Corey form before Corey form. And the people who rent it out don't fill a Corey form. So it's prejudicial against access producers. So if you're a parent of a kid, you waltz through the high school. If you're Ben went running out of the station allegedly, and a friend of mine said, oh, you need a Corey report. Can't come in here. And it's like, but people rent the place. And there's a magazine clip on the ground, and there's no Corey checks. So that's got to be addressed. And I hope Mr. Rumley comes here next time, as we talked about at the last meeting, because the Corey thing's got to go. It's like, who wants the school invading the privacy of politicians who want to be on the air. So they have a leg up because they know the background of every politician who wants to be on TV3. That's unfair. And that's what the Corey check does. But at Somerville Media, where we got kids running around, there's no Corey check because the rule is unsupervised access to children. And at Somerville, we have supervised access. In Medford, we have a station manager that's supervised access. There's no Corey necessary. It is a stunt from City Hall to keep people out, and I think it's wrong. And I think that in the very first meeting in March, the board asked me to send over the Malden one-pager. I sent over the Malden one-pager. Let's have a one-page agreement. If it works in Malden, who's been around forever, it'll work in Medford. That'll bring people in. Not having to have 3 or 4 pages, Corey check. That's not public access. That's not First Amendment. That's a hill to climb, and then you got to learn how to edit. That's not Access TV. Access should be fun. It's got to be fun. And then, God willing, you like it a lot, you could be like my first director, who's one of the top guys at HBO. The guy who got me into public access said, your grandmother lives in Somerville. There's something on Day Street. And he started as a young guy doing this, and now he's one of the top executives at HBO. So public access can do that. Look what it's done for me. It got me a job as a writer for allmusic.com. I got that from my TV3 interview with Suzanne Vega. I got paid good money for like 9 years because I did a public access show with Suzanne Vega, and she only did 10-minute interviews, and I got 50. And they bought it from me, not the show, they bought the interview, my intellectual property. And then they hired me as a writer for 9 years. That came out of public access. That's what it can do for our community. And I have those skills, and I want to be part of the team. But if people at City Hall say, oh, not that one, and not that one, and not that one, well, that's discrimination, and that's wrong. And if the people don't like my personality, that's wrong. Because the public access is all about a rainbow of personalities. So thank you for hearing me out. Let's be a team. Let's do outreach. Reach out to me. I like public access.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
You just, when Joe spoke, some of what he said, it just struck a thought here. I understand, some people have objections to the Corey checks, and just the more things you get a sign, the more an unfamiliar person is like timid or backed off from it. The satellite stations, wouldn't at least people working there, that was going to remove the necessity for Corey check there. So maybe that's going to become your primary outreach. You haven't started there, and then
Exactly.
because it is tough at the high school. First of all, it's at the extreme end of the city, and even with public transportation, the bus stop's right outside there. But trying to walk up that hill, if you're old, I can still make it in the winter. And then in the winter it gets dark at 4 o'clock. Whereas if you're in the neighborhood where you're comfortable, even if it's dark, you're in the streets you live in. You're not afraid there. Now, you're hoping to have, a station manager by the meeting next month?
It's not really our timeline. I think we all have hopes and dreams.
Right, all I'm thinking
yeah.
is right now you've got a Circle the Square meeting thing here next month. Was it July something, 21st, whatever? You've got weekly farmers markets at the Shell. As soon as you've got something to present, maybe you can get a booth at one of those things to introduce yourself to the community.
Yep.
that's a great
The
idea.
TV3 van, you don't need a big van to cover events anymore. I mean, it's nice to have because the cameras and everything. I mean, look at this. Well, remember the camera called the Beast, Joe? That people could really hold
Oh, yeah, and
on?
it didn't have half the audio this thing does.
That's what I mean. That anybody can hold on to.
Facebook Live is better audio than the cameras I get from another cable station.
But the van was a physical presence. People see it. Oh, it's a TV truck, and they get to notice. They see people with cameras. Well, you can do this if you want. You can't. What do you mean Medford's got a TV station? Now, they didn't understand what access was. They're thinking it's like Channel 38, but they know it's TV. It's in Medford. I can be a part of it. Do something to make yourself stand out in a good way,
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So once we
Well, and just to add to what Arthur said, it isn't the Corey check that frightens me. God knows I beat City Hall in a court of law. It's certainly not the Corey check. It is the 3-page agreement. The indemnification is way too wacky. And that is what's keeping me from signing. I could give a darn about the Corey check. I'm a 64-year-old man. I'm not going to hurt anyone. Look at my record. But that 3-page thing, it's nuts. And that is what's keeping me out, and it's keeping Johnny Byers out. He told me that. He agrees with me. The 3 pages is nuts. He doesn't care about a Corey check. I don't care. Adam Knight said he doesn't care. So that's irrelevant. But that's a stumbling block for people. It's the 3 pages. The 1 page I sent you from Malden and the Somerville. I like the Somerville one. And Yvette knows Somerville well, so she could bring in the 2 pages. That is what our model should be. That's easy. Medford tries to reinvent the wheel. Don't. Just copy Somerville and Malden and Winchester. Their indemnifications are easy. Stoneham especially. It's a great station. Reading. Winthrop. I mean, there's stations that I've been at forever and I've never filed not one complaint. And what does that tell you? They run really well, and I've spent a lot of time at them. They run so efficiently and so professionally. That's what we need.
All right, well, thank you all.
Thank you. It's a good meeting.
Anything else? No? All 3 of you are good? And you're good? All right, so, propose that we adjourn?
I second.
It's quick.
All right.
We're adjourned at 6:39.
All right, thank you all.